Hi guys, I just want to answer a very quick question from one of my viewers. He said that for me, it's sad that the inevitable rise of EV, the thing that is sad about that is the used car market, because with batteries having a limited lifespan and a huge sum to replace and repair, do you think it's worth to get, let's say, a used Taycan in the next 3 to 5 years as opposed to a used internal combustion car? Will the cost to maintain overall be more or less the same? And then considering the low maintenance parts replacement on EV, except the battery, versus the high maintenance on ICE cars, but without the huge lump sum of battery replacement cost. He said he would love to get a Porsche EV in the next 5 years, but the decreasing cost of battery replacement repair has yet to be proven, or not low enough to compare with the cost of maintaining an ICE car, as of now at least. So hopefully with more push like that, and he could get the right balance in future. Alright, that's a very, very good question and a very good concern. A rather educated viewer as well. The thing is this, what he said is very, very true, because ICE cars, as we know it, has a lot of maintenance required, right? The components, from your brake pads to your discs to your pumps, your mountings, your axle oils, your transmission fluids, your engine fluids, the gaskets. There's just incomparable in terms of the amount of stuffs that are in an ICE car, as opposed to an EV. All right, and it's inevitable that we will move to electric cars because of the simplicity of turning energy to momentum, right? Think of our phones, our hair dryers, our vacuum cleaners, every electrical appliances that we have at home. Just imagine how inefficient they will be if they are powered by dinosaur juice, right? Doesn't make sense, right? Burning something to create heat or explosions to move something in order to power something is unimaginable. But we also know that stuffs like these, they deteriorate, right? The batteries in them will deteriorate no matter how. So the kind of lifespan that Carmaker so far has sort of promised the consumers would be, we'll give you an 8-year warranty on your battery and all that. But I would say by the 4th or 5th year, significant deterioration would have been noticed. The batteries would have drained out a lot faster. So in a way, it's like your fuel tank in your car shrinks over time. However, the fuel tank doesn't cost as much as the battery, and moreover, the fuel tank weighs differently when it's full versus it's empty, whereas batteries, they weigh the same whether it's fully charged or emptied, or when it's operating at its full capacity, or after 5 years it is no longer as effective and it retains probably, let's say, 60% of its capacity. All right, so given that this trend is inevitable, how do we look at, from an ownership perspective? I'm not talking about this from Elon Musk, I want to save the world kind of perspective, or Greta Thunberg. I'm solely coming from the perspective of a consumer and thinking about the economics for car makers and all that. So I would say that given that we are bound, that we have to move towards EVs, which a significant reduction in after sales maintenance and all that, car makers need to relook into their business structures or their business models. Because currently, selling a car, let's say this is a car, selling a car, they earn, the manufacturers earn about anywhere from 3 to 5%, if they're lucky, to be able to amortize the cost of the car within the expected time frame. Meaning, the amount of money they pump in to develop this car and to build the entire infrastructure, the production lines, the molding, the software, the programming, the robotic arms and all that, the big molds to stamp the body panels and all that. All these investments are the ones that are hyper costly. They could cost like 8 billion, 10 billion, sometimes a whole new chassis, a whole new development with new engine, new transmission, new everything. It could cost them up to, I don't know, billions and billions. All right, and it takes a long while to recoup the investment back. All right, and the recouping of that investment must be done within a time frame whereby they don't get leapfrogged by their competitors. Say for example, this is one car maker, this is another car maker, right? They both develop this, and then this one is selling much slower than this. All right, by the 4th year, this guy have earned back all the money needed and has spent the money to develop the next generation, while this one is still trying to recoup the cost of developing this one. The new model of that one arrives and it's gonna beat this one in sales, right? So that is a game. And given that they're earning 3 to 5% margin out of manufacturing, designing a car and all that, right? They earn so little, so where do they earn back?
When I switched to Pro Mileage, in my case, I got 46-47% of savings for that car.
Pro Mileage was the only one that gave me 5,000 extra value to cover, yet still cheaper, a lot less.
Turn up!
So these cars are distributed all over the world, and then the dealers will buy up these cars. The dealers also doesn't earn a lot, right? The whole the value chain, the value within this entire chain for the car makers is solely after sales. So after they sell you the car, they give you a 5-year warranty, and these 5 years you have to go back and service your car. That's when you felt that, hey, that disc brake costs like 1,000 if I buy it straight from Brembo, unbranded. That means it's not BMW branded, it's not Mercedes branded, but it's Brembo branded, but it's a compatible because Brembo supplies to these car makers, and Brembo charges you 1,000 ringgit, whereas these car makers charge you 2,500 ringgit, right? Or OEM wiper blade, those blades with the water spray done through the blade itself, for an S-Class, a compatible OEM brand is 380 ringgit, whereas the one with the Mercedes logo printed on the box is 900 ringgit. This is where the margin, the car makers earn back their margin. Basically, it's a bit like the Canon printer business model. You buy the printer, it's heavily subsidized. It's like 200 ringgit to buy the printer, but then the cartridge costs like 180 ringgit each, and then throughout the lifespan, you replacing the cartridge is where Canon earn back their money. Now this business model in the EV era, I don't think it will work well if they don't earn a proper margin, because maintenance costs are going to be a lot lesser, maintenance intervals going to be a lot lesser, and the battery is a big concern, right? Because used car markets also resemble a huge business for the car makers, right? Like BMWs, Audis, or Mercedes-Benz, they're still manufacturing parts for older models, right? There are still a lot of F10s running around, even though we're now in the facelifted LCI G30s, right? The F10s need to buy parts, and all those parts are highly profitable for the car maker. So in terms of this, how does the whole industry need to relook at all this? And then if you think about it, right, this is a car maker manufacturing cars. This is the buyer, people like us who are buying cars. And if we look at the monthly payment that we pay, when you calculate the whole cost, it's like this car costs 300,000, but by the time I finish my loan, I would have paid somewhere 500,000 or 450,000. Now, where did the money go? It went to the banks, because the banks who don't manufacture anything gets to profit the biggest chunk in this equation of demand and supply. The banks get to earn the most. Why? Because the car makers have a very old business model of manufacturing the whole thing and selling it to you like that, just like that. It's the same as selling chewing gums or a measuring tape. You know, it costs them X amount to produce, they mark up and then they sell it to you, right? And that's a very old business model, and not many people can pay off the car cash. So what comes in? The loan. If you think that, hey Bobby, isn't that obvious? Let me give you an example. Every phone has a phone number, right? And you go to your telco, you sign up the plan, and you pay your phone bill every month for the usage of the number and your phone, of course. All right. Now imagine if all these telcos have the exact same business model as car makers, where they sell you the number outright. So if I go to my telco when I was 20 years old, and I say I want to buy a number, and my telco said, all right, given your profile, you should die when you're 80. All right. So 60 years worth of 100 a month was calculated into the total bill, and that was presented to me, and I have to pay that amount. And if I couldn't afford that amount, that's where the banks come in, right? The banks would come in and say, oh, you cannot afford the entire amount for your number, we're going to give you a loan at 3% per annum. I have to take the loan because the business model of the telco is backwards, right? So I have to take a loan. And of course, telcos don't need to do that because it costs them next to nothing to generate another number, whereas car makers cost them a lot to produce a car, right? Now, every single number that was generated by the telco worked really hard for the telco to earn them recurring income every single month, right? So if all the unicorn startups out there were trying to vie for billions and billions of market valuation by the simplest basis of having recurring monthly income, then telcos would have been worth trillions, right? Because the telcos can sit there and collect money, right? Like nobody's business. And so you get what I mean, right? If I were to buy my number off, but what if the car makers, because of how EVs have a limited time lifespan with regards to their batteries, and consumers would have a, you know, when you buy a car at, let's say, 500,000, and then the battery runs dead in 6 years, how much will your 500,000 be worth? Is the retention of the value that you actually put in 500,000? Imagine 1,000 people paid 500,000 for their cars, and within 5 years they're left with 100,000. It is a total wipeout of value, of market value, of actual money that existed in this country, you know, because this country spent the money to import those cars in, and it is in everybody's interest if the value gets to be retained, right? Imagine 100 houses losing 80% of their value in 5 years, right? That would be a crisis. In larger extent, it is an evaporation of value as well. When all the EVs are experiencing this, and then it becomes really cheap, dirt cheap in the used car market, it will create another issue for the car makers as well, because car makers earning that few little percentage needs people to keep buying the newer car in order to sell them. But if the previous car got their values evaporated by 80% in 5 years, when are they going to buy the next car? It's going to take a much longer time, right? And that will present a problem for the car makers as well in order to sustain their current backdated business model. So I think that the car makers need to think about this. In the EV era, to be compatible with what that product represents, it is at best they apply a telco's business model, and that every single car that they produce actually earns money for them. All right, let's say this is the new Taycan, all right, and it is available at 3,000 a month or for monthly subscription, right? And someone more wealthy will go to Porsche and subscribe the latest one, the newest one. He is able to spec white, black, blue, yellow, green, whatever, the leather, brown, blue, whatever, you know, because he's buying new, right? And he's willing to pay 3,000 a month, all right? Now, his contract probably would be 3 years or 4 years. Now, during this period of time, Porsche is the one taking care of the battery, the maintenance and everything, right? Now, this car becomes Porsche's hardest worker because it earns Porsche 3,000 a month for the first 3 years. Now, after 3 years, this guy went back to Porsche, passed the car back, and because all these years Porsche is taking care of the car, right? Porsche earning the after sales or whatever. The next guy who has a lower income bracket went to Porsche and asked, "I would love the Taycan, but I don't want a new one. I want a 3-year-old one." And the 3-year-old one doesn't cost 3,000 to use every month, costs 2,500. All right, and for the guy, it's like, hey, it's 500 cheaper, and the battery retains its charge, right? Because it's been maintained by Porsche, and he happily signed up for it. And this car now makes 2,500 per month for Porsche for the next 3 years. Now, by the 6th year, another person who comes can subscribe it at probably 2,000 per month. You get where this is going? When this third person ends, it's already 9 years that this car is earning money for Porsche, and it can still earn a lot more. It's not limited to 10 years. Why is it currently limited to 10 years? It's because of the banks. The banks doesn't want to provide a loan for cars over 10 years, and that's where their value tanked. But if it is a subscription model, this car can continue to make money for the car maker for 12, 15, 18 years to come. Right? As long as the battery gets refreshed, maybe by then they have the margin to refresh their infotainment or whatnot. By this time, the factory is not pressured to keep producing 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 cars a year. You don't need to, because you focus on getting more subscribers under your belt, right? And by this time, they can manufacture cars that are more alluring, instead of, cost efficient, trying to squeeze from 4% margin to 5% margin, saving a little bit of cost here, a little bit of cost there, just to try and see where they can squeeze from the manufacturing part. Now, this is something that I think will be perfect. Now, for those of you who say that, hey, I'll be paying so much, but I don't own the car, but hey, look at the current model. The current model, you are paying like 500,000 for this thing, and then it depreciates a huge chunk. You lost that money to sell it. Cars would change ownership and possession anyway, right? So the notion that you own the car is fake, because even though you owned it, right, one day you will want to sell it, and by the time you sell it, if your If your car is still under a loan and the market value is below that loan, you are actually topping up money to pass the car to another person. It doesn't make sense. So that's all I want to explain or tell people in terms of my thoughts on how this industry's business model must change and will change because of the transition of going into EV. I'll leave the topic of whether I think BEVs are the future, right? I think the current technology, batteries, is a very inefficient way to carry energy. As an energy carrier, it is highly inefficient. In terms of energy density, it's nowhere near that of liquid combustion fuel, but it's the best that we have for now. All right. So I totally believe in electrification. Put it that way. I believe cars should be powered by electric. It's just that currently our best bet are batteries. All right. I look forward to the day whereby we're able to generate electricity using some magical, fluid, that can generate electricity, and then I don't know. It's exciting to see how things go, and I'm even more excited to hopefully one day that our cars are generated by, runs by electricity, but we do not need an energy carrier. All right, all will be possible for wireless charging. Imagine in the future we're able to create a transmitter that can receive electricity wirelessly. Currently, we already have wireless charging, right? We also have touchless wireless charging, whereby you just need to be in close proximity and you are able to charge. Imagine next time we have like a tower that transmits, right, electricity in another form, I don't know, microwave or whatnot, and a wavelength that isn't harmful to us. And as long as you pay your coverage, just like your cell phone coverage, if your car is under the coverage, is powered. And that will be the future. I believe that will be the future, whereby the grids are actually everywhere, right? We have roads, right? Infras, right? And as long as you travel on the road, your car's receiver is able to receive power, just like a cable car. Not cable car, or bumper car, right? Bumper car has that thing that attaches. So I believe that is an even better future, whereby since we have all the infras, since we need roads to drive, and roads are connected by electricity grids anyway, if there's a way for that electricity to transmit to our car from our roads, why do we need batteries by then? We don't need to carry that much battery. All we need is just to be within coverage or proximity to transmit energy to the car, and the car runs. All right? Before I forgot, all right, for those of you, whether you drive an EV or an internal combustion car, fire is something that is scary and very important for us to have a fire extinguisher in our cars. All right, traditional fire extinguishers are white powder fire extinguishers, right? And the interaction between a human driver with a fire extinguisher in their car versus a fire happens like you're driving and you notice a fire breaking out, and you stop your car, and then you take out your fire extinguisher and then you spray on it to put out a fire while it started, right? But white powder would create a huge mess in your car. And white powder is actually highly damaging to electrical circuits. Not only they are very difficult to clean up, they are highly damaging to electrical circuits. And that's the reason why server rooms, IT centers, they don't use white powder fire extinguisher. All right. What we are selling here, this Evo Club's Fire Expire, is actually gas-based, a solid-state gas-based fire extinguisher. Now, the standard fire extinguisher is a pressurized tank, All right, pressurized tank, as you know, they may leak pressure over time. You need maintenance, annual checks, and most of the time they don't last that long. All right, and having a pressure tank in your car, for some people is actually pretty scary under the heat and all that. This one that we're selling is a new invention, and it actually is a solid state in there. There's no pressurized charge, and this thing easily lasts 6-7 years. All right, guaranteed to function even after 7 years. All right, what it does is that you pull the trigger, you press it, it turns that solid state, okay, that solid state into gas. Right, and it is not CO2, because CO2 couldn't put out certain types of fires. I know there are canisters that you can spray to put out some fires, but the spraying ones, you need to be there physically to press it. Right, you let go of it and it stops. That is really for small fires, like cooking fires and all that. All right, but this one is, let's say you have a small fire that breaks out, you know, coming into your cabin, you notice it in your car, in your cabin and all that, you can just press this and throw it in your car and close the doors, and then it will just release and put off the fire. All right, so I highly encourage everyone, especially those who join us for weekend drives, right, to have a fire extinguisher in your car, and go to club.evomalaysia.com, right, log in your profile and purchase it now. We have the stocks all over here already. Once you purchase, we can immediately send it out to you. All right, I highly encourage everybody to have 1 or 2 fire extinguishers in your car. It's not whether you will have a fire in your car or not. Let's say we go out for a weekend drive, right? Everybody who has a fire extinguisher is helping each other to watch out. When a fire breaks out in your car, you hope someone else have a fire extinguisher. Same goes. All right, so if all of us have fire extinguishers, we're able to help one another. All right, and yeah, go buy it. I'm gonna put the link there, and go to the description below, and you'll be able to see that. All right, so another thing, for those of you who are renewing your car insurance, Evo Club here, we have the best car insurance, whereby you'll be able to purchase it at 40% cheaper than your current insurance. No joke. Because your current insurance, you buy the full unlimited mileage, right? But now a lot of people work from home. Some countries have locked down and all that, and we don't travel as much, right? We can't drive to Thailand, we can't drive to Singapore. We can buy 5,000 km first, and while you're about to use it up, you can buy another 5,000 km, right? And there are no penalties. Basically, what it means is that if you buy one shot, unlimited, you pay this amount, you buy it part by part, you're paying the same amount. All right, so again, thank you so much for those who support us. Go to the link below, and I will not stop trying to figure out these things to help car owners like you guys and myself. I'm a car lover, a lot of you would know that, and thanks for supporting us. And of course, another great news is that our Evo Club car wash is up and running. All right, go download the app if you are using Android. iOS is still waiting for approval. Download the app. Currently, it's only in KL. You know, Con is running it. You can book the service you want and book your slot and pay straight, and then you would go there on your appointment date. All right, thank you so much. Cheers. Thank you for watching. And it's been a long time since I have something that I felt like I want to talk, and for me to delve into these type of topics, it would also require you guys to ask something that is intellectual, I would say. All right, and this is my first time testing my mic. Cheers.